just excellent. Okay, so welcome to week 3. We're now starting our what we call tri-phase, and we're going to start to get you guys to practice a lot of what you've been learning over the past 2 weeks. So today it's going to be a bit of a jam-packed program. We have a quick update on the program, and it's mostly going to focus on the upcoming capstone project that you guys are going to do. Francis is going to do a Siemens simulator overview. Yeah, you guys will use this in essentially trying out your hands on scanning and what you've learned over the past couple weeks. And then we have Katerina Eyre, who will be coming in later on to give us a presentation on that O2 sensitive technique that we sort of learned last week from Dr. Friedrich. And so she'll be able to do a quick, maybe practical demo and take some questions about that. I want to remind us again what the objective of putting together this program is, because when we start to move into next week's activity, which would be a bit intense, we want to be able to make sure you understand what we're trying to do, because we really want to try to give you a little bit of skill and upskill, not essentially teach you from scratch or create a skill where there's none. So we're actually trying to upskill you. So some of the tasks that you're going to be given will rely on you having some amount of radiography skill. We want to make sure we're implementing best practices. So when we talk about the capstone project and we're talking about protocol, we want to make sure you're developing the best protocol and the best practices on how to acquire this protocol. So we did a lot of, background work in terms of giving you some background information on MR safety, giving some background information on acquisition analysis. That was all covered over the past 2 weeks. We're now moving into where we're going to get you to start being a little bit more hands-on, a little bit more practical, and we're providing you tools to allow you to do that. So I'm going to get into that. A lot of this work you're going to do in the next 2 weeks will inform when we move into the practicum phase, when you now take this back to your clinical practice, back to where you work, and you start to implement some of these best practices, MR screenings, form, safety, and all of the other ones. We're really trying to get you guys to work together as a team. So the capstone project is actually going to be a team exercise. Again, the goal of the capstone project, and this is something that is done a lot within the learning space. So when I was a grad student, we did capstone projects, and it's a way to get a team of people to work towards a particular task or problem, and you're given a subset of tasks that lets you slowly build towards solving that one problem, and then you give a presentation of that. So it's a way of trying to get you guys to sort of implement, at least on a trial basis, what you've learned over the past, over all that foundation course. In a set of instructions were emailed to you. Those instructions essentially give a little bit of a guide and outline as to how to get this project done. Again, it's a team exercise. So we only expect to have 5 presentations, 5 team assignments, 5 team projects, and not everybody doing it on their own time. And this will really require you guys to work together as a team and get to know each other. The project description is detailed. I'm going to go quickly through it. At the end of the capstone project, it's going to be a presentation, and we'll talk about that a little bit in a second. Essentially given 2 cases. So each team gets the same case. It's 2 sets of cases. And the cases essentially outlined in a manner where you start to build that case report. So each of these cases, given the essential, typical, and standard clinical information that you need to acquire this case. So think about this as if these patients were walking into your clinic and you handed over a requisition that has this clinical presentation, and the indication is cardiac MRI. And so this is now your chance to build the cardiac MRI protocol that will, essentially allow you to present this case. Presenting means handing it back to the radiologist. So essentially over the next, 2 week or so, you probably have already started this. You have to start with the MR screening form. The patient works into your clinic. You obviously have to screen them first. So we want you to design this MRI screening form, and complete it for each of the cases. Build the protocols that you need for this particular case or for each of these cases, and acquire the images, analyze them the standard and best practice way, and then essentially submit the case report. You'll be given tools on how to do this. So for the MR screening form, we gave you form samples. If you look at Your week 3, so your week 1, day 3, you covered CMR safety, so you can review that to get some background information. Again, going back to the foundation, what you've learned. We gave you some screening form samples. Use that to complete the screening form for each of your team, for each of the cases. Francis will go over the SWiM simulator. We're going to use that to simulate and acquire the cases. But first, you have to obviously build a protocol. So expect you to have a CMR protocol submitted for each of those cases when indicated, because CMR may or may not be indicated. That's also part of the learning process. We're going to use a SWiM simulator to acquire the images. The SWiM simulator is essentially there for you to scan. It's not there for you to learn how to scan. Because again, the idea here is that we're training people that are skilled, and we're just giving a little bit of skill set on how to do cardiac MRI well. So there is very limited time on the SWiM simulator. Each team gets 3 hours. You have access to the simulator by Tuesday. And so use your 3 hours very wisely. You have 2 cases. So we will recommend that, if you can follow through what Francis is showing you today, you should be able to use that simulator and scan. So make sure your protocols are ready and you're just going to go in there and scan. Again, think about this as if the patient walks into your clinic. If the patient's walking into your clinic and you're about to scan, you don't have time to go and start learning how to scan, right? You will then be able to export those images out of the simulator and into Circle CVI. We've given you information on how to activate your trial licenses. Once you've installed the simulator and you have set up your account, if you have any issues with activation, let us know right away. We'll get those accounts, trial accounts activated for you. So you can use those trial accounts to analyze your images. Now, you guys are all given accounts with Circle CVI. The time is a little bit not as limited as a simulator. So if you want to use the Circle CVI as an individual and play around with it in analysis, you can, but your team has to submit 1 analyzed images for the capstone project. And at the very end, you would then have to write up a report on that particular case. You don't have to write you don't have to write what's it called? You don't have to write the presentation at the very end, because sometimes the presentation includes the treatment option and the clinical path, and you don't have to do that, but at least you should be able to summarize the clinical history, summarize the imaging findings, which is the CMR protocol. And if there's any findings that you think you can take a stab at, you can. And essentially, we will like to see those reports for both cases. And then on September 16, we'll do a capstone presentation where each team essentially summarizes what the clinical history is, this safety, their acquisition analysis, and then essentially give a summary of any challenges they've had being able to do this capstone project. On September 30, we're going to have a radiologist actually come in and review those cases with you and discuss a little bit more about the image quality and what the expectation is from a radiologist perspective when we are acquiring CMR images. So there's going to be 2 sessions, each of these on our Saturdays. Your presentation is just going to be you presenting essentially the cases and how you did the scan. Before we go over to the SWiM simulator and hand it over to Francis, I want to see if there's any questions at all about the capstone project, and we could quickly discuss that. I think that should be straightforward, but if there's any questions, I'm happy to go over that. So if you have a question, just put your hand up or unmute and we will address that question. Adewale, are you asking a question? I hear a lot of noise, but I don't hear anything else.
Okay, so can you hear me, please?
I could hear you now. Just give me a second. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, if I could get you. Sorry, you said we have until Tuesday, as in just before Tuesday, to get everything ready in terms of the protocol and then so that to be able to run the scan.
Oh, sorry. I was just trying to see if I could. You have until when? You said Tuesday?
Yes,
So,
according to what you said.
That's not what I said. What I said is on Tuesday is when you have access to the simulator.
Okay.
So Tuesday, you're going to get access to the simulator. You should have received a capstone outline. Did you receive that?
Yes, we did.
Okay, so if you go to the I'm just trying to find it here. That's why I stopped sharing screen. Let me just bring it here up quickly and see if I could share this now. If you go through your capstone project, I'm just trying to share it here quickly. Hi, Katerina, so nice to see you. Okay, so if you go over this here, I think you can see my screen now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So these are the cases, like I mentioned, and you see that each day we've given you some exercise to essentially walk you towards that final stage, which is a presentation. That's how capstones are done. You're given small tasks. So on Friday, you should have done the MRI screening form. On Thursday, you should be, I'm sorry, on Tuesday, it's when you get access to the simulator, and then you can start to scan. Essentially, we've kind of split it up into Tuesday and Wednesday so that you can sort of sit up on the simulator and set up your protocol. If you want to start scanning that day, that's fine. We're hoping that by Wednesday, you'd have finished scanning the cases. One thing I forgot to mention here, and I'm sorry about this, is that patient 2, height and weight, just use the same height and weight as patient 1, right? When you register them, just use the same height and weight for that. And if you have any questions, we'll be happy to address that. But if you look at that, you see that by Thursday, you are now analyzing. By Friday, you're putting together a report, and then Saturday, doing that 10-minute presentation, right? So that's how it's kind of laid out. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Katerina. Thank you very much. Okay. Any other questions? And that was a great question, actually. Any other questions at all about this? Is this kind of clear? In terms of submission, I think that maybe some of you might be asking, where do you submit this? You just submit it by sending an email back. I think that would be the fastest way to do the submission for the MR safety, the protocol. The capstone images, when you actually do it in the simulator, we will be able to log in and see it. And you should be able to then upload that into your Circle accounts. And when you do the analysis in Circle, we should be able to also see, because the name of the patients and stuff like that are there. You should be able to take those images out and put them together in your presentation and report. And I hope that's clear. And if there's, again, any questions, we'd be happy to answer that. Okay, any other questions before I hand it over to Francis? Again,
I think if they should have any other question, they could speak with also their team lead or the team coordinator, who also try as much as possible to explain it to them.
Yes, you're 100% right. So if you have any questions, reach out to your team supervisors, or when you send an email, or reach out to Marina. She's again on the WhatsApp groups. You can drop your questions in those WhatsApp groups and we'll be able to answer them for you. So I will hand it over to Francis now, and he will go over the simulator with you guys, and hopefully by Tuesday you get your full access to the simulator.
Thank you,
Francis,
Prof.
thank you.
Yes, I'll be walking you through how to navigate through the simulator. I think it's just going to be a simple exercise. I'll share screens soon, then you can follow. Because you have a limited time to do all these tasks, I think beforehand, there are some things you need to get ready. So when the link is sent, you don't have time to be, doing other stuff. You just go straight forward to the platform, then you can start using the stimulator. So I'll just share my screen.
Can you hear your screen, Francis?
Yeah, I can. Just a moment.
Okay.
Yeah, can you see that?
Yes, we can. Thank you very much.
Good. So before you start using your simulator, I mean, this is just the overview. The simulator is an innovative digital platform for Siemens medical devices, not only MRI scanners, but the other scanners that are onto that same platform. So you can use it to train. It's a cloud-based learning platform. And this is just for training and demonstration purposes. You cannot use that for any diagnostic, as a diagnostic tool. And these are the prerequisites before you can log into the system. I mean, your web browser, if you want it to, the platform to work efficient for you, you need a Microsoft Edge or Google Chrome. And your internet should be strong enough so that there won't be any breaks. Because if things of that sort happen, then you are losing your time. I mean, you have limited time. And beforehand, you need to have your mobile device for authentication. And these are the authentication apps that you can use, either Google Authenticator app or Microsoft Authenticator app. So you need to install these apps. I mean, when you go to the Android, maybe you go to the Play Store, you can search for these apps, then install it on your phones so that I'll call it like a passport. If you don't have that, you'll not be given the chance to, go to the platform. So you need these ones, either this one or that, before you can log into the system. Then once the link is sent, you have to go to the online platform, the Siemens platform, then you start your registration. In case you encounter any difficulties or any challenges, as Prof said, you can contact any of the clinical admins or the instructors, and they'll be able to help you through. There are some help links, but because we have a limited time, maybe you may not get time to go through because it's a lot of pages that you are supposed to go through to be able to understand all the system. So if you don't have the time, you just have to contact your admin and they'll be able to sort you out. So for our program, we are doing the cardiac MRI. So we are just going to use the MRI simulator system. And that's what I'm going to show you how to navigate through. There are other simulators. You can have a CT simulator, you can have echo machines and all those, but our main focus is on MRI. So this is what the simulator can do. You can scan a subject just like you are doing your scan at the department. Like, yeah, you have your subject and everything there. So you can also access your scan protocols and it can perform post-processing. There's one, I wouldn't say it's a challenge, but it's still under development. I notice when you apply some of the parameters, even though you can play with it, it might, for the MRI simulator, it might not give you change in maybe the contrast or of the images, but you can still play around it and you'll be able to see your images the way that you want it, like the protocols and everything. So that shouldn't be an issue. So this is just an overview of that. So I'll just log into the system and show you how you can navigate through that. I think that's the most important thing here. Just go to the browser. Cool. So yeah, I'm going to log into my system. Then you see the way that I'll be able to navigate through. So these are my login details. And you can see that this has popped up. So if you don't have your authentication app ready on your mobile phone, you'll not be able to enter the platform. So I'll have to check on my phone, and I'm doing that right now. Go to my authenticator app, and there are some codes that I need to enter. Yeah, so they've granted me the access to the authenticator, the simulator. So I'll go to my subscription. And since you are going to be the subscription users, I think once you log into it, all the modalities that has been assigned to will show up. So you'll be able to use them. And beforehand, we are going to upload some workbook. So we have to just follow that. Then, yeah, we can go through the exercise. Because there are a whole lot of stuff that you can do with the smart simulator. But we just concentrate on the CMR aspect of that. So we'll give you a guideline and you'll be able to follow through. When you log into it, I think it takes like 5 to 7 minutes before you'll be able to connect into the system. So I'll pick my MRI, magnetic vital, and this message will pop up. I think each of the regions has its own data center. So I'm just hoping your region will be permitted, which I ask the vendors. They say it's possible. I mean, you should be able to log from wherever you are, so it shouldn't be a problem. But in case you find any challenges with that, you just have to, contact the clinical admin or the instructor, and you'll be able to sort yourself out. So I will start my connection. And as I said already, I mean, your link has to be strong enough, because if your internet system is not strong, then I'm afraid, I mean, it will take you ages for you to enter the system. Yeah, so I'm waiting. It takes between like 5 to 7 minutes, or it can be earlier, depends. So you can see that the connect here is grayed out. So you cannot click on it. You wait for some time for it to be activated before you can connect.
So while we wait, I think if they have any question thus far, they can easily just pop it out to you.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So if you have any question at this time, so that we don't waste like 5 minutes.
Okay, so
Thank you,
Francis,
Harrison.
hello.
Yeah, I'm listening.
Okay, so the type of scanner will be made available to us. And we will know which one we'll be using, whether it's Avanto, Solar.
Yeah.
When we log on.
Yeah, so the protocol, the scanner type, everything will be available there. And we will tell you which one you're supposed to use. Okay. So that's why we are going to upload the workbook, and you should be able to follow the instruction that is in there. So you don't do other things. If not, you're going to produce your own result, and it will be out of what we are expecting you to do. Any other questions?
I'm sorry for taking you back, but there's some...
Go ahead.
Hello, I'm listening.
Will be in the group format. All right.
I don't know. Is there anybody that doesn't have that is not that doesn't know how to use the Siemens system, or you are using Philips or other modalities, can you just let us know?
Okay, so I use more of a Philips. I use a Philips system.
Okay, have you ever tried Siemens Ansal before?
Oh, that was a very long time ago, but that was a CT scanner, not an MRI.
So basically, I think it's a very simple system. When you go through it, you see just like step-by-step stuff that wouldn't really give you much issue, like the actual scanner. Do you understand? So I think you should just be rest assured. I think Francis is ready. Let's take him.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I just connect the system. And this one should take about 2 minutes.
Okay, so if
we
we have
see the
2 minutes,
importance of like stressing on your
Right.
internet connection. It needs to be strong. If not, you'll be waiting on a page and it will take you forever. And you have a limited time that Prof said, like 3 hours. So if you're going to waste all this time, then I don't think you'll be able to use the simulator. Then your time will be up.
So if I may, are you supposed to do this 3 hours at a go?
So I will show you. Let's go concentrate on this. Then I'll come back to your question. If I forget, just remind me. All right, it's taking some time. So back to your question. You will have an option to, what do you call it? Oh, all right. Let's go. So this is the home page. And this is, you see these 4 icons in there. You can see that the system check is marked green. That means the system is ready to be used. At times you see other signs, maybe a caution sign, yellow or red. That means the system is not ready for you to use. You cannot contact the engineer because this is just an online platform. It's just a replica of what normally happens. But if you are scanning, if you are using your scanner and there's an indication like that, it is advisable you call your Siemens engineers to find out what is going on. Don't just go ahead and scan. You have to, make sure that the system is checked green for you to use. I don't know about your departments. I mean, when you go to well-organized department, early in the morning, you have to run your QA systems and to be sure that all the system, everything is running optimally before you proceed. If there's an error message or if the system is not okay, you don't go ahead and scan because the result that you're going to produce might not be good. It's not reliable. So even though some of these departments, you have not been given the access to go through the QAs, but it's advisable you find out from your vendors or the engineers whether you should be able to perform the quality assurance on the calls and all those other accessories to be sure that they are working at efficiently before you can go ahead. So this is the system check, green, which means everything is okay and you can use it. I just click that so that I can show you some 1 or 2. So you can see helium level, everything. You need to check if they are all working before you can scan. You don't just, if helium, you're losing helium and you go ahead and scan, you can break the scanner down. So you don't do that. Either you call them, they will advise whether to come and ramp the system or they will tell you what to do. So it's very important you check that. And this is my exam cockpit. It contains a whole lot of protocols and you can edit them if you don't. Yeah, you can work on the protocols, edit them, the way that you want, and you save them. You can see the program editor. Yeah. So after editing your protocols, if you are okay with it, you can go to new, then you save it the name that you want. And this is the exam interface, the exam user interface. So once you click on this, before you start your scanning, you need to register the patient. When you click on this, for the SWiM scanners, you will have the browser, you have the scheduler. The scheduler is where you find a list of patients that you are going to scan for the day. Normally, when you go to well-established institutions, they do this. They go through the referral forms, then they are okay with the history or the indication and the type of exam they are setting. Either the radiologist, from where I work, the radiologist will go through everything, then they'll give it back to the radiographers, then we do a second vetting. Then if we are okay with everything, then we hand it to the admins, because admins may not know the technicalities, like the technical terms. So we have to go through everything. Then they will put into the scheduler. So when you go there, the patient, the list, everything is there. It's not now that you are going to input your patient just to save time. But I'll walk you through how to register that. If you have your radiology information system working, or the hospital information system working, it's linked to the scanner software. So once they sit at the admin department, and they will be able to register all the lists for the next day. So when the patient comes, because it's booking, like everything is in order. It's not now that you're going to take your time and input or register the patient, unless it's an emergency situation, you don't have time. So I will just show you. I think you can see this one, register patient. Then just beside that, we have the emergency patient. So if it's an emergency case, you click on this, and that one is scanned faster. Because it's not an emergency, we use register patient. Sorry. So yeah, this is what I'm talking about. So you can see this red indicator here with a white cross, which means the system, there's something wrong with the system. So you don't go ahead and scan. You have to find out. If you can't do that, you have to call the engineers. Yeah. I'll go ahead. So before you can start any exam, you just have to register first. So I'm going to do that. There's on save data, if discard. Yeah, I don't need that. So I'm going to register my patient, then we can start the scanning. So last name, all the ones that has been indicated with a yellow line, that means it's mandatory. If you don't fill those slots, the system will not permit you to scan. So I will enter maybe test 1. Then a patient date. This is month, day, year. So in September, and today is the 9th? I think so. Then maybe 1990. So the age comes automatically. Then you select the sex, the gender. I will use male. For the height and the weight, because the system used that to calculate for the specific absorption rate, you have to be very accurate. You need to measure the patient. If you don't have a scale, you need some at the department, because some of them may not even know their weight. So this is the US system. So they are using feet and inches. You can switch to metrics. I prefer the metrics because that one is easier for me. So maybe 170 centimeters. Then the weight around 67.
Yeah, I mean, according to picture.
Sorry? All right, so let's move on. Institution, I will enter hospital. Then from here, you're going to select the program. So you go to program selection, just beside the patient registration. You can see it here. You click on it. So which type of exam are you going to do? Is it cardiac? Is it brain? You select. Let me use brain first. Then we can come back to the cardiac. So everything is filled here for you. Then you select the patient orientation. You have supine, feet first, head first. So it depends on which one that you want. I'll select head first. Then you can save information, and that will be sitting there. Yeah. So when all the mandatory fields has been filled, you can go to exam. You can see it here. Yeah, always messages popping up. You need to take your time to read through to understand what they mean. This popped up. I consulted the engineers. They said, I'm okay to go ahead. So I'm confidently going to scan because it's a training platform. So they want to use all means that might happen when you are using your ray scanner, just to alert you that something of that sort can also happen. And do you just ignore it and go ahead? No, you have to find out why that is the case. And if you ignore it, it can break the system. So I called them, they said I can go ahead. So I'll just go to yes. And that is my exam user interface. So you can see this, the protocol that I pick has given me all the sequences. And this is what I'm going to scan with. If you are not familiar with the features of the scanner, I think this one is Siemens. So those who have used Siemens before can help the other colleagues if they are finding difficulties in navigating through. But I'm going to do a scan, so at least you'll be able to see, because there are some similarities in some of the scanners, I mean, depending on the vendor. So this is my scouts, as some vendors would like to call like the localizer. So I'll double click. Then you see the go here. You have to click on it. If not, it will not scan. So you are okay for it to scan. Yeah, that was fast. I didn't mean to scan the T1, but yeah, just to show you one thing. For the cement sequences, there's a workman just behind, at the left side of each sequence. You can see this one. If you don't put If you don't select that, the system just thinks like you can scan automatically. So you can see that this one, the sequence 2, I didn't place any workman icon on the sequence. So you just picked it and just scan. That might not be the right orientation or the plane that you want to scan. So you have to plan it again. But just to let you know that there's a workman attached to each of the sequences. So you have to, the system, you can optimize the protocol. So you can put them there already so that they don't continue scanning like automatically. So I'll repeat my second sequence. So let me drag it down. Yeah, so that I'll get time to plan that. So I'm going to plan the T2 axial. Cements use tran as a transverse instead of like axial. So if you see transverse, it's the same as axial. Yeah, I'm just locating it at the parallel to the ACPC. And if I'm okay, I can scan. If I'm not okay, I'll go to the parameters. Then adjust them the way that I want. Slice, the number of slices, you can adjust them. You can see that it has reduced. And you're going to cut most of the brain parenchyma, which is not good. So I'll just increase it. Your face, everything, you can play with it the way that you want it. If it's T1, you know your TR. If it's T2, you should know your TR and your TEs. And you should know how the cont works. If the TR is too much and it's going to increase your acquisition time, you want to play with the concatenations, either to increase it and divide it into two. I mean, the slices. You should know each of the parameters when you change that, how it affects your image and the contrast. So this one, we are not going to go over that one, just to show you how the system works and how you can plan. Yeah. So if I'm ready, I'll just go to the Go, click on it, and to start scanning. And these are the acquisitions, the images that I've acquired. So if I want to use that to plan, I can easily drag that into the box. Then I can use that one to plan, because this looks better compared to maybe the Scout, and you want to use it. So that's that. This one is T1, the same T1. I'm not going to show you how to scan brain. I mean, you know how to do that. Just to show you the parameters. And there's a guide here. Normally, it shows you where to place your voxel. Yeah. And how the image will be. It will give you the guide, like, so you can use that one if you are not familiar with how to plan and all those stuff. Let's see. Yeah.
So Francis, can you do us a favor?
Sorry?
Yeah, can you do us a favor?
Yep.
It would be nice you skip the sequence planning and
Yeah, so I'm going straight to the
parameter. How to export the images out, because we still have one other presentation and our time is running fast.
Okay, all right, that's fine. So just above the guidelines, what do you call it? The guideline. Here, when you click on it, you see a lot of parameters that you can play with. The geometry, the system, the physio, the sequences. You can play with that. If you're not happy with maybe the bandwidth, equal spacing, and all those stuff, you can play with it. I will go back. Yeah, so if you're happy with this one, I mean, you just have to go and see how you can play with that. If you have any issue, you can reach out to your admin and they'll be able to sort you out. So let's go back.
Francis, the admin is your team supervisors, right? Just so we're clear, so that way they know who they're reaching out to.
Sorry?
The admin is a team supervisor, right? So they know who they're reaching out to.
Yeah, the instructors. Yeah.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
Thank you. What is? Yeah, a whole lot of pages here. So just give me a minute. Discussion, yes, cool. Oh.
Are you trying to look for the image you just scanned now in the scheduler?
No, I'm just going back to the browser.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think with that little knowledge, they should know how to run the cardiac. You have given them enough cue.
Yeah.
So instead of running,
so when it comes to
again, that would take enough time. Just they have gained the next cue, so you should go to the next point.
Yeah, when it comes to the importation of protocols and the exportation, I don't think the subscription users are going to use that, but I'll still go through that because the protocols that we want you to use, we will upload them on there for you. And the system has a lot of protocols here, like that you can play with. Unless you're not happy with what is on there, then you want to import your own. And by so doing, you need to have them on your local drive. And that should be a DICOM file that you can import onto the system. That takes about almost 2 hours. So if you are going to use that, that means you are going to use the whole of your time. So you might limit that function to the instructor. They will upload if they think the protocols here or the sequences here are not the best for them and they want you to play with different sequences. But if they're okay with this one, you can still use this. So yeah, I'll walk you through that. But I don't think we can have that time to go through everything. So you go to import, then you click on import. There are mounted drives. Drive A, drive B, drive J. So by the time you're going to do this, you've imported whatever that you want to use onto my subscription drive. That's a drive G. Then we can, I did this one, so they are just lying there. You click on it, open. So you can see that this one is a DICOM file .exa1. If you use any other file that is not the language of the system, it might not permit you. So export. And these are the sequences. If I'm okay with that, I'll just, any of them that I want. This for morphological functions. So if I'm happy, and this is what I want to import, I'll drag them here. Let me go back, check one, two. Yeah, so because these sequences were still sitting in there, it didn't allow me. So I have to select different folder. This is the workflow folder. Then it can permit me to move the sequence. And this is a whole folder, like it's a lot of sequences, like the same sequences here, but we are not happy with the ones, sorry. You are not happy with the ones here in the cardiac folder, and you want to import your own sequence. That is what it means. So I want to import all of these ones into the system. So I'll go to import. And this one will take about one hour, 30 minutes or something. It right. Was, yeah, so maybe we can skip this one.
We can cancel it. So I think, Francis, they get the idea. We're going to set up the protocol for them. I mean, not protocol. We're going to download the sequences that they need for them to set up the protocol. And if they need additional sequences, this is fantastic what you've shown them. But again, they're taking a whole hour to do it. So
yeah, to do that, it's a whole lot of, yeah.
So we'll try to download all the cardiac related sequences for them so that they could be able to access it. I think the most important thing is for them to be able to export the images out as a DICOM so that they could analyze it in Circle. So can you demonstrate how to export an image out?
Yeah, you can do that. There was well, let's try that one and see how it works.
Yeah, I think after that they've kind of got everything they need. And
yeah.
Again, if there's any questions, we'll be happy to help them with that. Yeah.
So, let's go.
I think for Siemens, if you want to export the images, you have to go back to schedule, which you have saved the image. Because if you go to this format, you are going to be exporting the file itself. So you have to go back to schedule and then click on the image you are exporting, and then you can either export to your system, or you can export to your or you can export to your either a CD or a DVD or, or a flash drive.
There was a limitation message that came up when I wanted to export that we are not allowed to export into your local drive. Yeah, I think there was something like that when I started.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll get back to them on how to export that. We could probably put together a PDF screenshot on how to export the images out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so this is fantastic. Thank you so much, Francis. I think this covers everything right now. And we're going to take just one question and then turn it over to Katerina, right? So we're kind of a little bit, So is there one burning question for Francis before we turn it over to Katerina for BMORE?
Hello?
Yeah.
I'm listening.
My question. Whether we are supposed to do the whole simulation, the 3-hour simulation at a go, or we can divide into sections depending on our time schedule.
Sorry, come again.
So he's asking if we can spend the whole 3 hours on doing their on running the simulation. What I would say is that just think about this as a patient, again, walking into your clinic and scan. You have 3 hours to scan the cases you have. If you want to take out 3 hours to do it, that's fine. If you want to split it into 4 days, you have a limited time on the simulator, and you have a limited time to complete the project. So I will say that you use your time wisely.
Yeah, and you're not going to go through all these processes because the admin or the instructor will make them available for you. And yours is to either optimize so that you can use them to get your the required images that you're supposed to get. Because all these processes, it takes longer time to upload and export. It's a whole, and there are some limitations that because it's owned by the vendors, they might not want you to import it, export it onto your systems. So there was a limitation like that. So I don't know if that is the reason why I'm facing some challenges now. But you can still export it. And the format, everything is there. So it should be easy for you to do that. And because you have a limited time, you have to go straight to the protocols that you're going to use depending on the indication that you're going to use to scan. If it's MI, you know that this is the sequences that I'm supposed to use in order to diagnose that. So you just go straight onto the folder, the MI, the cardiac folder. They have a whole range of sequences that you can play with. Just be confident that these are the ones that I want. And when you click on it and the parameters, there are some variation that you think might not give you the quality of images that you want. You have to play with that, the TR, the Ts, and all those stuff, as I was showing you to how you can, play with. Time might not permit, but I'm just giving this as just to show you how you can go, and it's reliable. You can use it to scan, and the physiological monitors, everything, they are there. So you need to search for them so that you'll be able to get the required images that you want. And so that's it. So back to other questions.
I think that we are done here. Norbert, you have a question? If it's quick, we'll take it because again, we're running into time. So can you ask your question?
All right, the quick one. It was on physiology. I'm going to ask if since it's a simulated scan, are we taking physiology into consideration or not?
So during your presentation, you want to see how all the steps that you took to acquire your images, you're supposed to show, like you have to indicate that you use this, that, and these are the sequences that you use to get to your images. Because if you are not, if you are not giving all those, you might lose a marks. So yeah.
Well, I think what he was asking was
so I think that there is so that's a very important question because there's no contrast injection. We're not going to be able to simulate pre and post contrast, and that's what Francis is alluding to. In cases where you're not able to simulate that, you can hint to the fact that simulation, physiology was also performed, and this is the sequence. This is how it was performed. We don't need to see the images because we know that it's not possible to simulate a contrast injection. So that's what Francis is hinting to without giving away the answer. But that's kind of what we're looking for, is that you are thinking about the process and you're thinking that, wait a minute, I need to scan this patient, but I don't have. So think about it in a sense where you don't have contrast in your clinic. So there is a contrast. We've had gadolinium shortages before. So think about it as that being one of the cases where it's not possible for you to do GAD, but you know that GAD is indicated, and you just have to explain to us that GAD is indicated. This is how you'd have done it, stuff like that. That's what Francis is thinking.
There's a contrast icon there, but even when you select that, it's not going to affect. Well, I don't want to go into details. I think I would just leave it here so that you find out. Because if I'm going to go through all the
just a
I'm just giving you the answer. Just a follow-up. Sorry?
No, but I have a follow-up question. You can go ahead and ask that quickly.
So I was asking, in terms of monitoring patient ECG for the examination.
Yeah. Same response. Well, when you get into the case and you start scanning, if you run into any issues, if you're not unsure, contact your team supervisor and they'll be able to help you out. And this is where you become a technologist, and we will help you as much as possible to scan this case without sort of doing it for you. So I think we should leave it here. These are very great questions. No, but it's already telling me you're thinking about this case and how to scan it. But let's just kind of, you guys start working on it, and we'll try to help you as much as possible. Okay. So thank you so much, Francis. This is fantastic. We're going to turn it over to Katerina, who has been waiting patiently. I think they've already loaded the patient in the scanner. So Katerina, we'll turn it over to you. I know that you're in EuraCare in Lagos. We really thank the EuraCare team in Lagos, especially Dr. Anosike, for setting this up. Katerina, also thank your supervisor, Matthias Friedrich, for also making this possible. And we also want to thank McGill, Doctor Internship Program, McGill Graduate Mobility Awards, because they also made it possible for you to fly from Montreal to Lagos to be there right now and to do this. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Katerina. It's always great to see you.
Hi there. Can everyone hear me clearly?
We can.
Perfect.
Yes,
I'm Katerina.
we can.
We're here in Nigeria right now with the scanning team, Lagos. This is Jared. We have Vivian. Hello. And then Wally's loading the volunteer now. So we're just getting him set up. While we're getting him set up, I'll just explain to you what we're going to do today. So my supervisor, Matthias Friedrich, he developed this protocol to have a look at the oxygenation of the myocardium without using contrast agents. So what we're going to use instead is something we call a breathing maneuver. So hold on, we just have a technical error. Okay. You got it? Yeah. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to do a basic CMR protocol, contrast-free. We're going to start with the localizers. We're going to do the synase, and then we'll do what we call the OS. So it stands for oxygen-sensitive CMR. So what's going to happen is, I don't know if you've heard of it before, but the patient will breathe normally for 1 minute. We use a metronome to have the patient hyperventilate, like as if they're doing exercise. What this does is it basically causes the vasculature to constrict, so the vasculature gets small. And then we ask them to hold their breath. And as they hold their breath, the vasculature dilates, so it gets bigger. And basically this change from constriction to dilation is what we're after. So we're going to see, using the oxygen-sensitive sequence, basically a change in signal, which is representative of oxygen going into the myocardium. So as we're just getting set up, he's setting the leads. Often what's really important is to prepare the patient. So the really important thing is that they hyperventilate properly. So we practice with them before they go into the scanner, while they're in the scanner on the table before we start the exam, and once more before we do the sequence. So we've already prepped our volunteer. We've explained to him the breathing maneuver. Now Wally's just prepping him in the scanner now, and he's gonna explain it to him one more time. And then we can get started. So sorry for the delay. I think Vivian's gonna be scanning here. Yeah. Vivian, do you have anything to say?
No, so we're going to be displaying it. I mean, we'll take it gradually, slow, so everyone will be able to see it. So
we're going to use a phone. So just let us know, because we don't have the ability to share the screen on the scanner. So just let us know if you don't see anything clearly. So maybe just flip the camera now to test that. So I think in order to see this big on your screen, you just need to pin Vivian's name to your dashboard, and then it should be big. Let me just test that for myself. Yeah. So if you...
yeah, it's working for me. That's what I did.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's working, but it's rotated.
the phone straight.
Yeah.
Keep the phone straight.
Yeah, because it's turned here. Yeah.
Very good. Very good.
Okay, so we can see it clearly.
Yeah. So here, we'll just walk through the sequences. Sorry. Sorry.
So, Katerina, if you are going to run all this protocol, your 1 hour might not be enough. I think you should go with the most. Okay, fine, perfect. I can see you have the 4 chambers here and the shutdowns. Oh, fine, perfect. So I think 1 hour should be enough. It might even be less than 1 hour.
Yeah.
If we go over time, that's fine. The people can stay. We'll record it, and
okay.
yeah. So let's just try to give Katerina the time that she needs, and it's been recorded. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like that.
Yeah, so they can see the images as well.
Yeah.
How do we get to pin Vivian, please? Can someone please let me know?
Yeah, so you need to find Vivian Anolif. How do you say her last name? Anolif. And she's on, you'll see her videos on. And then on the top right, you'll see 3 dots. If you click on the 3
so Katerina, can I make it easier for them?
Yeah.
So on the bottom of your screen, I don't know where you are, phone, whatever, there's a participant. Click on the participant. On the participant, you're going to find Vivian. There is Vivian and Olive without the O, which has a camera symbol on. That shows the camera is on. You go to more, pin, you're done. Participant, Vivian with the camera on, pin, and you're done. Get that? So you go to the participant list at the bottom of your screen. If you're on phone, look for where it says participant, find Vivian, there's one with the camera symbol on, you click more, you click pin, and then you're able to get it. So go ahead, Katerina, thank you.
Okay. So just so that I know, how many people does everyone scan cardiac here? Do we need to go a little bit more slowly through each of the sequences?
Nope. They've already covered 2 weeks of CMR. Okay. And so we can just kind of, and they've seen the Siemens live scan. So we can just go ahead and start scanning, and you can scan essentially with the protocol and the what you guys have set up to do. Yeah.
Okay. Katerina, please help me tell the team to put off the lights in the console room.
Can you turn off the lights, guys? Okay, sorry.
Is this better?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, just bear with us. So the patient's in the scanner now, and we're gonna just make sure that he hears the breathing maneuvers, the metronome. Okay, can you see So like I said, we have a pre-recorded metronome that we use. So I'm just gonna play it. Can you ask me if he hears it?
Yeah. Yeah, Sergio, can you hear me? Yeah. So are you hearing the beep?
Perfect. So we're gonna get started. So we'll just start with the localizer. We have Wally here scanning. Wally, you want to say hi?
Hi.
Okay, off we go. So it's 3 plane localizers. We'll have an axial view, a sagittal view, and a coronal view. We'll use that to plan our 2-chamber localizer. Since it's just a localizer, you can kind of go fast a little bit with the planning. Basically, you always want to put the center of your slice mid-valve in the mitral valve, and then point the tip of the slice through the apex. Just getting a little error thing here. So you're having I think of it. Sorry, we're just having a technical difficulties. You have to go on the scanner. Oh, I see. Okay. That one. Yeah. Okay, so take two. Ah, shoot. Yeah. So like I said, this is a 3-plane localizer. It's just doing some shimming and then it's going to scan. And then on the screen, we'll get. Oops. Okay, so we'll get 3 views: axial, sagittal, and coronal. We don't need to do the haste. Just exit. So he's just going to plan the 2-chamber now. Like I said, on his axial view, he's going to take the center of the slice mid valve and have yeah. And have the tip of have the angle of the slice going through the tip of the apex. So bring this here, the center of the slice. Oh, yeah. And then angle it down. Yeah. For the scanner here, we only have 6 channels, so we turn off the acceleration just to try and increase SNR, and we can go, I think. Yeah. Yeah, we always have to capture cycle. And then did we put a shim? So we do a shim that's small, just around the heart. So we find that works better. Yeah. Okay. And then we just want to make sure we're on cardiac shim. So go system adjustments, cardiac. Yeah. So then for the next, we'll do 4-chamber localizer. Open the 4-chamber. Yes. So he's just going to copy his shim from the previous one. And then we're going to have the so now we have the 2-chamber up, and we'll use that to plan our 4-chamber. So just take the line, we'll move it over, center mitral valve, and then pointing through the apex. Yeah, go ahead. What? So now for short axis, we do kind of like full short axis localizer through the heart. You need your 4-chamber and your 2-chamber to do that. the images are static. Normally you would want to plan it end systole, but here the images are static. So you just make sure it's roughly angling through the apex of the heart and perpendicular to the septal. The yeah. So I'll take the iPad off. This resolution.
No.
It's good. Yeah. It's okay. Okay. For the two-chamber cine, we usually copy slice and adjustment value from the localizer and then adjust it using the short axis and the four-chamber that we acquired before. So you copy both slices and adjustment values. Yeah. And that way we can just adjust it using the four-chamber that we acquired now. So just making sure the angle is through the apex. Center of the slice is the mitral valve plane, and then using the short axis that we acquired, so going towards the mid-ventricle slice and making sure that the line is parallel to the insertion points, the right ventricular insertion points. So these 2 points here, here, and here, that's what we call the insertion points, where the right ventricle latches onto the left ventricle here, and this line should be parallel to that to get a proper two-chamber view. And then on your four-chamber view, it should be going through the apex. So this is going to be a cine. So we'll go to resolution. We'll turn the iPad off just to increase our SNR. And we'll turn the image filter off as well. Okay. So, yeah. Yeah.
Out, breathe in, and hold your breath.
For the four-chamber cine, so he'll do the same. He'll copy slices and adjustment values from his localizer just to get him started. And then he'll use the two-chamber cine that he just acquired because that is a cine, so it's going through all of the cardiac phases and his short axis to plan it. So now it's better to plan. It's better to plan at end systole. So he's going to find his end systolic phase and then make sure the angle of the line is going through the tip of the ventricle. That's how you get your true four-chamber. And then he's going to go through a short axis stack, make sure it's also going through the tip, but that it misses the aorta. So here you have your valve going into the aorta. And so you want this line to not be intersecting through the aorta here. Otherwise, you'll get what's called a five-chamber. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. For the three-chamber, we use what's called a snowman. So he's just copying his adjustment volumes. And then we use what's called the snowman to make sure that we're going through the outflow tract. This time we really do want to go directly through the outflow tract in order to see the atria. So he's just going to plan his slice going right through the outflow tract. And then you always need to use two views, sorry. So he's going to use both his two-chamber and his four-chamber. Both of the good ones. He's going to go to end systole and then make sure his line is pointing through the apex.
Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, and hold your breath.
So here we have our 4-chamber. And we can make sure the same thing. So I think we can find end systole here. Can move the slice over because you want it to be through the mid-mitral valve, and then just point it through the apex. You can see the apex really nicely here. And then you just always cross-verify on your 3-chamber, because sometimes when you move one slice in one view, you're altering the image position on the other view. So you always just want to go back and cross-verify that it's still going through the outflow tract like you want it to. It's going to be a little bit of a compromise usually between views. And yeah, we're good to go. Yeah. Next, the short axis stack. So this is going to be the same thing. He starts copying his slices and adjustment values from his short axis localizer. And now he's going to adjust it based on his cine, so both his 2-chamber and his 4-chamber. So you see here, you have a nice 3-chamber. You have the aorta, left ventricle, left atrium, and you can see both valves, both the atrial valve and the mitral valve clearly. And over here, we have the right ventricle. I think you put it to 25%. So we're just going to change the distance factor to make the gap between slices smaller. And then we'll increase the number of slices. Look at end systole to get his angle, the angle of his slices. And then he'll go through diastole to make sure he's covering all of the ventricle. In an ideal world, you'd have a slice gap of 0. But when you make a slice gap of 0, what happens is you decrease your signal to noise resolution. So often we need to, for 2D imaging, you have to put a little bit of a slice gap because you have imperfect inversion pulses. So you can just cross-reference that also in the 2-chamber. Yeah, I think you might want to add a slice. Looks like you're tight, yeah. Yeah, I think it's better to have like one more slice than another one. No. So, I mean, 12 is good. Yeah, I think that's better. Okay, let's check the breath hold time per slide. Okay, 16 seconds, so it's a little bit long. Maybe we can turn the grappa on to 2. Yeah, instead of, yeah, perfect. Okay, let's check the breath hold time. Yeah, it's better. So we always check here, it's like a balance between signal to noise, image resolution, and scan time. So you can go. So that's why I'm having them check, because they have 6 coils. They have an inherently low SNR here. So we try and find ways to increase the SNR, but often those have the impact of increasing scan time. We don't want to make the breath hold time. With cardiac, you always have breath holds. You don't want to make the breath hold time atrocious, because then patients can't do it, and then you get into artifacts coming from motion. So it's always just a balance between these different parameters. So as we're scanning the short axis, it's going to take a few minutes. We can start planning the OS baseline. So the OS baseline consists of 2 slices, one at base mid and the other one at mid apex. The reason why we don't go true basal and true apical is because at the basal level, you have some artifacts coming from the valve. So you have flow, what's called flow artifacts, inflow artifacts. And for us, it's really important that it's this one, right? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
For us, it's really for us, it's really important that we measure the signal in the myocardium. So when there's any disturbances in that signal, we don't like it. At the apex, same thing. We have a lot of issues with partial voluming. The myocardium is also smaller in that area. So for initial validation, we take the basically the mid slices, so basal mid and mid apical. So he'll plan, we always plan at end systole. So you'll take his 4-chamber and his 2-chamber. He'll find systole, and that's when he'll angle and place the 2 slices. And here's where he's going to make sure that he's away from the valve. So the valve being here. Everyone can see well, huh? There's no blurring, glaring. It's a bit of a glare, huh? Maybe
yeah, we can see it very well. This is fantastic. Yeah, we can see it.
Perfect. So he's going to plan it end systole and then just go through all the phases just to make sure that we're in a good position. So you can see that as we move through any of the flow inflow that we see artifacts, we're not hitting it with the position that we are. So we're happy, and we're not too apical as well. We just cross-reference it on a 2-chamber because we have one. So you just pull up your 2-chamber cine. Okay, perfect. And I think we're happy with that. So for those of you who aren't familiar, we consider basal above the papillary level, mid papillary level, and then apex below the papillary level. So you can see the papillaries in this view here. So we call this basal mid because we're just at the height of the papillary level here. So it's kind of like a more basal mid slice. And here we're not exactly below the papillary muscles yet. So we're not quite apical, but we're a little bit lower in the mid level. And that's why we call it mid apical, just for anyone who's not familiar with the terminology. So now we can see we've finished our short axis cine. So now we're going to do 2 more scans. We're going to do what's called an OS baseline and the OS continuous acquisition. We do the baseline. It's going to be with 1 breath hold to make sure that there's no artifacts in the image. So this is just kind of like a baseline, like the name suggests, just to make sure that we have all the parameters set properly. We don't need to change the field of view, the bandwidth, and the timing is okay. So we are just going to run it. It's going to be just like a normal acquisition, breath held. And then afterwards, we're going to check for artifacts and then go on with the continuous acquisition. Okay, I think we're good. You check everything. Here, I didn't mention, here for the OS, we do a really tight shim. So we even do it tighter. We usually do a shim around the heart. It's good enough. But for the OS, we do a shim box that's really, really tight just around the slices that we're measuring. We find this gives us more homogeneous results. We struggle here sometimes in the analysis with B1 inhomogeneity. So that's why we make the shim box a little bit tighter. Always check your shim on multiple views. Don't just look at one view. The heart is a 3D organ and we're only taking 2D images. So you always want to make sure on multiple views that everything is placed properly. Otherwise, you might end up with an image that you're not expecting. Yeah. So we'll see if we get an artifact. If not, I can show you an example of what we often see. Let me just pull up a document. That's really nice. So this is the basal mid slice. You can see some of the papillaries. There's no artifact in the image. It's a nice acquisition. And now we're going to do the mid-apical slicing. It's just acquiring now. Before we do the continuous acquisition, I'm just going to show you an example of some artifacts that could appear so you have some visual idea. This mid-apical slice also looks really nice. You don't see any banding artifacts, any ringing artifacts, and there's no motion artifacts. So by looking at the image quality of these two images, I think we're okay to move to the continuous acquisition. But I'm just going to quickly show you, if you don't mind, an example of some artifacts. I hope this doesn't screw everything up, and I'm going to share my screen. So let me just show you. So I think everyone can see my screen, I hope.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so these are 3 examples of common artifacts that we see when doing the sequence, and that's basically what you want to look out for. The first one is the susceptibility artifact. The myocardium should ideally be homogeneous, so it should be kind of the same grayscale color. Whenever you see a dark, like a kind of a dark band like this, it's usually an artifact if it's not pathology, like severe pathology. On a non-contrast enhanced image, this would have to be pathology, otherwise it's an artifact. Here, breathing motion, I think that's really obvious. So if the patient breathes through, this is kind of a severe case, but if he breathes through the acquisition, you'll have pretty bad image quality. And then over here, the last one, it's a ringing artifact. So same kind of thing, the myocardium should be homogeneous, but maybe you notice this dark band here. And if you look very closely, I don't know how clear it is for you guys on the screen, but there's a ring that forms. So it actually goes around and forms like a circle. And that's called a ringing artifact. And that's something to look out for. It's pretty common as well. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. If Vivian's thing got unpinned, just pin her video again so you can follow along. Before we run this acquisition, we usually talk to the subject or the patient to make sure that he remembers what he has to do. So Wally's just going to talk to him and say exactly what's coming. We have 1 minute of free breathing, followed by 1 minute of breathing with the metronome called hyperventilation, and then breath hold for as long as he can, ideally for a minute. Okay, go ahead, Wally.
Hello, Joseph, can you hear me? Hello, Joseph, can you hear me? So we're about to start with the one with a breathing instruction. So you will hear the beep. The first one, just 1 minute, breathe normally, just breathe normally as you do. And then it will start asking you to hyperventilate, which implies you breathe in well, breathe out well, and make it as fast as you can. Then towards the end, it will ask you to breathe in, breathe out for the last time, then later ask you to hold your breath. So that part where it asks you to hold your breath, we want you to hold your breath as long as you can, but don't kill yourself. Just hold it as long as you can, please. Do you understand? Okay, so can we go ahead? Okay, thank you.
Okay, so how he's going to prepare.
Katerina, can I throw in something before you continue? You just have to make the patient know that it's not as long as you can, for at least 40 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the patient has to be aware it's not as long as you can, but at least 40 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay, so Joseph, can you hear me now? Joseph, can you hear me? Okay, so the part where you have to hold your breath, please hold it as long as 40 seconds, please, at least 40 seconds. Please, thank you so much.
Okay, so he's going to copy this. So the reason we did the baseline is to make sure there is no artifacts. So what he's going to do to plan this is he's just going to copy slices and adjustment values from his baseline as it was set well. And then here, so normally we do automated breathing instructions. Here we do manual breathing instructions because I plug into an aux cable. Can you just show that? We plug an aux cable and then we play a recorded acquisition. So Wally's going to do a prep scan, and before he actually acquires the image, him and I are going to start at the same time. So we usually do a little countdown. So he's just going to prep the acquisition. Oh, and we need to change the number of measurements. Sorry. So here, this is the acquisition time. The whole acquisition here is 3 minutes. It's 1 minute of free breathing, 1 minute of hyperventilation, and the last minute is the breath hold. So we only need this acquisition time to be 3 minutes. So how you do that is you go and you change the number of measurements. So here we set it at 40. So since we want to bring the scan time in half, we can try 20. So you see it's still at 4 minutes. We can bring it down further. The number of measurements is dependent on the patient's heart rate. So patients with a faster heart rate need fewer measurements, and patients with a slow heart rate need longer measurements. So now we have it at 3 minutes. So we're good to go. He's going to prep his scan, and then we're going to start at the same time. Just want to put it up so they can hear it. That's good, huh? Okay. No, we're good. Let's go. Just wrapping it on. Well, yeah. Okay, ready? And then 3. You ready, Wally? Yes. Okay, 3, 2, 1, go.
Please breathe normally.
So for 1 minute, the patient is going to be breathing normally. We pull this monitor up so we can watch the images as they're being acquired. You'll notice the image quality is poor. That's normal because the patient is breathing through the acquisition. So there's going to be a lot of motion artifacts. When he does the hyperventilation, it's going to get even worse. And then when he does the breath hold, the image quality will become really nice again. What's really important, we usually pull up our waveform. So here we can watch the patient's heart rate. So you'll see his heart rate here is 59 and his respiratory frequency at 19. So when he does the hyperventilation, the heart rate, it's like he's doing exercise. And when you do exercise, your heart rate increases. So the heart rate should increase usually by about 20 to 30 beats per minute. And the other thing that's going to increase is his respiratory frequency. These are 2 ways to kind of have a check because it's hard to, we're not in the scanner with the patient, so we don't
Start breathing with the beeps.
We don't see if he's doing it properly. So there are ways to check that the patient is doing it properly. So we want to hear it. Sorry. So here we started at 59. We can see it's going up. I can see his chest moving.
Fast.
Deeper.
And fast. Deeper and fast. You see.
I think he's not doing it. No. Let's stop the acquisition.
You said deeper and fast.
He's not doing it. He's just holding his breath, you see? So now the line's flat, so we can see that he's holding his breath. So we'll stop the acquisition and we'll do it again. So we're just going to send Wally in the scanning room to talk to him, make sure he understands to breathe deeply and with the metronome. And then we'll try it again. I see someone with their hand up. I don't know. Does someone have a question?
Yeah. I have a question on the breath hold.
Please.
Yeah, the instruction, the 40 seconds. Is it 40 seconds?
Yes.
Instruction. Is it advisable to tell the patient that he's supposed to breathe like hold the breath like 40 seconds? Because you are going to multitask. Because the patient might think that, well, then I need to count this. And that's going to be very difficult. It's going to add up to like the brain activities, and that will not help. So I don't know if there is a way that you can set a system that when it's 40, then the system will tell the patient to breathe on or something like that.
Yeah.
But if you are going to tell the patient to hold the breath like 40 seconds, the patient might think, well, then I need to count this.
Yeah.
And that's going to make it very difficult for the patient to hold the breath.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So we do this a lot at McGill, and what we find is actually telling them kind of how long they do the breath hold is actually helpful, not detrimental, because sometimes when we tell them just hold your breath as long as you can, then they don't try to hold their breath for a very long time, and after a couple seconds they stop. So we usually tell them, try to hold your breath as long as you can, please at least 40 seconds, but of course if it's impossible for you, don't worry about it. And we do time it. So when we start the breath hold, we usually time the acquisition. After 40 seconds, we tell them you can breathe normally. And that's what we tell them going into the exam too, that we're timing the breath hold. They don't have to worry. and we'll let them know when their time is up, but just do the best they can to hold their breath. So I actually, in my experience, I find it helpful to tell them that the breath hold should be 40 seconds because it gets them prepared to hold their breath for longer than 10 seconds, let's say. But it's not like the idea is just to get the patient to do it. So if you find that, you know, the patients, it's better when you don't tell them and they're managing to hold for 40 seconds, I mean, that's okay too. The idea is just to help them get there. So.
All right, thank you.
All right, so we're gonna try this again. Here we go. So hold on, Wally, I'm not ready.
No. So Sergio, we'll start from the beginning again, eh? So at first 1 minute, just breathe normally. When you hear the beep, breathe in and out as fast as breathe in and out fast in a fast way. Then the machine will tell you to hold your breath, please. Thank you.
Hey. Here we go. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. So go. Start it.
Breathe normally.
Here, pull up the box. Okay. So now we're doing the free breathing part. You can see the image quality is not great. That's expected. It's actually not horrible. You can see his breathing pattern here. So he's breathing pretty fast. It's okay. As long as he follows the metronome, right? So
Start breathing with the beeps.
So here we go, the hyperventilation. Again, cues to look for are to watch the patient in the scanner, which you can't see, breathing up and down. His chest should be moving through this. The heart rate should go up, so you can see the heart rate is rising. These peaks should become well defined, up, down, and the respiratory frequency should go up to 30. And finally, another check you have is the image quality. The image quality should get really bad, and you can see that it's really bad. So now we're at a heart rate of 91. A respiratory frequency is going up, 24. It's super accurate here. And the image quality is bad. And I can see him, although you guys can't, I can see his chest moving.
Breathe in, breathe out, hold your breath.
So now the image quality, so we can see the line's gotten flat, so he's holding his breath. His heart rate should go down and the image quality should get nicer. Those are 3 ways to check that he's holding his breath. And we're timing it here. So the image quality is still pretty nice. He's held his breath now for 15 seconds. He's still holding his breath. You see a nice flat line here. His heart rate has dropped down now to 65, so it's almost going back to normal. And the image quality is still really nice. So as soon as you start to see him breathing, that's when you can stop the acquisition, or after 40 seconds. So here we are, 35 seconds. He's almost there. And so he's doing a really good job at holding his breath. And we'll just let him go a little longer, and then we'll tell him to, so now we can tell him to breathe normally. It's been a minute.
Just like breathe normally, relax.
Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah. So now we stop the acquisition, and that is the exam. To do the analysis, we look at the signal intensity during the breath hold, but I think we'll be showing you that another time. So I don't know, I can take any questions if anyone has any. I hope that was clear. Sorry, it's a little hectic doing a presentation on the live, but yeah, I'll take any questions. Conception.
Katerina, this is fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Recording in progress.
Okay, yeah. I didn't even expect it to go this well, so this is great. Thank you so much. I'll turn it over to people that have questions, but you don't have to apologize because the whole setup as well. I was able to follow it, and I'm sure the rest of them were able to follow it as well. So any questions for Katerina?
Hello, Katerina. Please, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay, so for the oxygen sensitive CMR,
Yeah.
is it 1 minute time duration or minimum 40 seconds?
So for the breath hold, you're asking, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. So basically, we like to have a minute, but minimum 40 seconds. The reason is that cardiac cine sequences are gated over multiple heartbeats. So usually it takes like 6 heartbeats and maybe also 7 with a dummy pulse to have one cardiac image come out. And so over 40 seconds, we can make sure, basically, you look at the difference from a 30 second time point. In order to have enough heartbeats, it needs to be about a 40-second breath hold. So I hope that was clear. So the reason we ask for 40 seconds is because the acquisition's gated. So multiple heartbeats are going into creating one cine image. And we need to make sure that we have enough data points basically to do the analysis. Francis, it's your hand up.
Yeah, just on the technique that you're using, I could see that this prospective gating, right, whereby the patient has to hold the breath for a number of seconds. Yeah. Is there a situation whereby you can do a retrospective gating, whereby after that you do post-processing analysis to get the required phases that you want, as compared to other techniques that they employ that? Thank you.
Yeah, of course, you can do retrospective gating or prospective gating. The ideal scenario is prospective gating. The ideal scenario is like real-time imaging. But of course, yeah, if you struggle with doing the prospective gating, you can do retrospective.
Thank you.
But while you are doing the let me just add, while you are doing the with prospective gating, you should make sure that your time frame does not most likely exceed the minimum of 4 minutes. Because when you do prospective, there's every tendency that you must shoot above the average time frame, and then you begin to get some results that do not tally with what the cardiologist or the radiologist is actually looking at. Understand?
Yeah, thanks, Harrison.
Yeah, thank you, Harrison.
Okay, any other question? We'll be glad to take it. Any other question from the participants? So I think Katerina did a very fantastic job, and it was well explanatory. If there's no, or Katerina, is there any other thing you want to add that you missed during the conversation?
I think that's everything I wanted to cover. Of course, there's some details, but I think you guys have worksheets on the OS. If you're interested, you can always email me offline as well. And I think we're doing the post-processing workshop another time. So I'll show you how we actually analyze those images.
So the metronome, are you sure they understand what the metronome actually means?
Sure, yeah, I can explain that. I mean, the metronome is the beeps that you heard. So instead of, it just makes the whole thing more robust. So instead of asking them to hyperventilate, which could be anything for any person, we just ask them to breathe with the beeps. So every time they hear a beep, they need to either breathe in or breathe out. So it's beep in, beep out, beep in, beep out. That's how we usually explain it. You heard the beeps, I'm sure, I think. So that's what it sounds like. It goes on for 1 minute. And the other thing that's really important is that the person is breathing with their chest, like with their, sorry, not with their chest, but with their belly. So it's really deep breathing. So they're really getting, it's like they're doing exercise. It's really, again, we want to affect the vasculature. So it really has to be heavy through their belly. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so very much. Marina, is there any addition? Marina, are you there?
Yes, hello. No, I think we covered everything that was for today.
So I'm glad we did this today. So we look forward to next week, Saturday. So hopefully we'll get to understand the analysis aspects when Katerina gets to put us through for this again. So if there's none, Marina, we hand over to you to round off and just know what to say. Thank you.
Well, yeah, I think that was all. But yeah, thank you very much for attending. And I think after this, there's a Spanish session, Spanish weekend tutorial. So if the Spanish speakers can stay on, and then the rest can log off. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much, Katerina. Marina, don't forget to stop the recording. Thanks so much, Katerina.